Hey HCDA and welcome back to Satisfactory, and today we are probably going to tear this entire place down, so I suggest you take a good look at it, because this starting facility, little hub over there is not going to work for what we want to do next. And what that is, well, let me jump down to the crafting bench and show you. What we want to do is make all the second tier or mid game or whatever you want to call them types of items that we currently have unlocked thanks to the stuff we unlocked from the tier 1 unlocks. Now, let's see. What do we have? We have the reinforced plates. We already had those, but we couldn't craft them anywhere in a building so far because it's two items combined into one. But now we have the assembler that does exactly that. So we can automate the reinforced iron plates. Now we definitely want to do that because we also want to start making the modular frames. And again, these needs reinforced iron plates, and it's two items being combined into one again. So once again, we definitely want to automate that, not just because it's 2 in 1, but also because it takes quite a long time to actually make by hand. So making sure we automate that will make our lives a lot easier. Now on top of that, we have all the way down here, we have the rotor, which again, two items. Nothing special over here, just some screws and rods, but again, it's two items into one. And the rotor actually also goes into smart plating, which you might notice is not actually in my overview over here, because we cannot make this ourselves. So we actually will have to automate that if we want to make it, and we will definitely want to make it, because that's what we need in order to complete phase 1. Now, that means we have a lot of work to do, but before we do that, what I'm actually thinking about doing is, well, let me walk you through my design. So let's jump up here on the tower. All the way up. And let's have an overview. So we have 4 iron mines over here, and we have 2 up here. Now what I want to do is make one assembler making modular frames, one assembler making smart plating, one assembler making rotors, and that's just the minimum amount then in terms of buildings that we have making those stuff in a automated fashion. And in order to do that, we are going to need 2 assemblers making reinforced plates. Yes, 2, because apparently we need an extra surplus of that. No, actually we don't. We only need 1 building making reinforced plates, but I actually want a second because we also need the reinforced plates to build several other things, including the tier 2 belts, the Mark II belts. So we definitely want a little bit of surplus of reinforced plates. Now in order to make that, we are going to need a whole lot of screws, a whole lot of iron plates, and a whole lot of iron rods. And in order to make those, we are going to need almost exactly 6 iron mines, at least 6 of these impure ones that we currently have that make 30 iron each. Now, we have those, we have 2 up here, we have 4 down here, so that's actually quite convenient. So that's why I was thinking, let's just redesign this entire place to make exactly those numbers that I just listed out. That will mean, however, that we need to tear all of this down. Now, before we do that, there's just a few small adjustments I want to make to what we currently already have. So we have this whole copper facility over here that we probably want to relocate at some point as well, but for now that we can just leave over there. And what I think we should do in that case is just remove these belts, remove this pole over here, and probably do most of the same over here. Let's take these down, and then what we're going to do is place down, where is it? A storage container or 2. One of them over here. Let's flip it around so we can actually have stuff go in. And then the second one is going to go right over here with a belt attached. There we go. And now we have basically still our mall up and running in terms of copper, but we've gotten it a little bit out of the way. Now we definitely want to relocate all our resources that are now going into those 2 boxes, so we can get these out of the way, and that should clear everything up. Now I'm actually also going to take all of this down in a moment, but before we do that, I'm actually going to build a small little mini facility over here. Now I'm gonna put down some foundations, so just give me a sec. And as the sun is going down, we have this little foundation area over here where we are going to put down a couple of containers, like so. Let's make sure the containers actually face in the right direction. Yes, they are. That's one. Then that should be two. And not entirely sure where the third one will be. Maybe all the way on the outside, actually. I think we can afford to use up a little bit more space, maybe than we necessarily need. Now, in order to make fuel, so far I have been doing that manually, but I am going to want to automate that. So we are going to place down a constructor over here. That's going to be one. There's going to be a second one over there. And these two constructors will be transforming leaves and wood, respectively, into the actual fuel. Now, actually, it turns out I might as well just do it like this, maybe. And that means that I can put the storage container right over here. And we can actually take this one down. Now, if we just connect all of this up with some belts, does that actually work? I don't think so. Maybe yes, no, maybe. Okay, I'll jump down and do that. But the idea is basically that, whoops, the idea is that we have the wood and leaves going into here, being transformed to biomass, and then that biomass going into here, being transformed into solid biomass, and then being exported here. And then that means that we don't have to go through all of those steps manually, which will save us quite a bit of time and quite a bit of annoyance. And in order to save ourselves some more annoyance, we are actually going to build the power facility right next to our little starting base. So let's leave ourselves a little bit of room, maybe something like this. And then let's make sure this one is aligned with the other one. There we go. And then we are going to flip it around. Ideally, we should be able to walk right in between those two things. So let's do that like that. For some reason, it's not actually aligning with the other buildings. So that's interesting. Maybe something like that. That should work, I think. There we go. 1, 2, 3. Now, this should produce as 180 energy, which happens to be exactly what we're going to need for our build. But for now, I'm actually only going to connect this up to the actual fuel production, because otherwise I will actually have to have everything powered up at the same time, which is going to be a mess, and we're going to have to remove all the power poles there anyway. But this should be really convenient in terms of turning some leaves and wood into biomass. So now that we have the power up and running over here, that's producing some decent amount of solid biofuel. Now let's go put that to use. And in order to do that, we are going to make ourselves a chainsaw. Now that's about as exciting as it sounds. And this is going to help us, I assume, clear out some trees. Now let's equip that. That's pretty much how I would be looking at it. Okay, now I think in order to operate this, we actually are going to need some fuel. And by now we should have some, so let's take 75 biofuel over here. And let's go be angry at some trees. Now these trees are going to be extremely in the way, because we do want to expand out to make sure we can make our facility that we want to make. And that means these guys have to die. Now, as you can see, that clears out the tree. We actually get some wood as well. This little thing over here also needs to die. There we go. And so on and so on. So we are going to murder a decent amount of trees in order to make room for our base. And yeah, I actually took everything down, and the mass delete option is actually quite convenient considering the amount of stuff we had to delete. All my stuff, at least my resources, are in these tiny little personal storage boxes over there. For some reason those fit more resources than the big storage containers, but yeah, I'm not entirely sure how that works, but it's quite convenient. But in the meanwhile, what we're doing is actually we are going to be building a different type of factory, and since the game has been screaming at me that I should be thinking about vertical factories, that is exactly what we're going to do. Now I have no idea if this is going to be optimal, but I'm going to channel my Dyson Sphere knowledge, combine it with a vertical thought, and probably about 2 hours of thinking through how I'm going to actually build this thing, and that is exactly what we're going to do, and see if we can come up with a factory that is close to perfect ratios. The ratios in this game are actually quite annoying. One thing I did find out, by the way, and I'll show you very quickly in case you didn't know, you can actually set the clock speed of your factory. So if I want this to produce at 75%, you can. If I want to do that at 100, if I want this to produce at 23%, I can do that as well, and so on. So that's actually really interesting. So you don't necessarily need to aim for perfect ratios based on what the building normally produces. Anything less than that actually works as well. And you can also put in these power shorts in order to scale the production up and overclock it. That will of course then cost more energy. If you scale it down, actually you also use less energy. I can't show you it at the moment because this is not actually producing, because we are out of power. But I guess you get the drift. Now, we're not necessarily going to use that in our factory just now, but we might want to use that sometime in the future, because overproduction is not necessarily useful unless you are specifically aiming for that. And I do think we have a use for that later on as well. But first things first, let's start building a factory, shall we? Alright, and our first floor is done, and well, I think it looks pretty good, and if you do too, make sure you like the video. If you don't think it looks good, like the video anyway, because I will definitely need all the help I can get. So what is going on over here? Well, we have the iron rod production over here with a belt going to nowhere, because that belt is going to go upstairs, but we don't have the upstairs yet, so for now, it's just a placeholder. We also have the iron rods going in here. Of course, there's a splitter here to make sure it's being split between the two constructors. And there's a second splitter here in the middle, because we are going to have to transport those iron rods, or at least half of them, to the second floor as well. Now, other than that, it's pretty straightforward. We have the smelters in the back over here. There's 3 full belts of iron coming in. That's exactly the amount of need. Well, actually, we need slightly less, but it's close enough. Like 5.9 full smelters or miners worth of iron, and we have a total of 6. So we have 2 over here, 2 over there, and then we have the 2 up there that we saw in the first episode that are producing iron now as well, being combined into one belt and being transported down. And I really like the looks of those vertical belts, so that is really awesome. Really nice touch by the developers. And well, yeah, all in all, looking pretty decently organized. And once again, if you agree, make sure you like. If you don't agree and you have tips to do this any better, then make sure you leave a comment, because I need all the help I can get. But all in all, not bad for a first try, I would say. Now, what are we going to have to do next, other than making sure we don't run out of power, because we are currently using, I think, 3 full of these biomass burners already. So we're likely going to have to add 1 or 2 to that facility over there, but for now it's working. We are going to have to figure out how we get a second floor on top of this thing. So yeah, I'm gonna go fiddle around with that, and I will hopefully be able to show you the result in a minute. Hey guys, look, I managed to build a roof, and to be honest, it's actually looking pretty good, at least a lot better than what my previous factory and attempt was looking like. There's a question I have for you guys though. Is this something we think is allowed? The buildings can actually clip into each other, and although the belt is unobstructed, which it should be, otherwise the belt, well, of course, in theory, wouldn't work. I'm not entirely sure if it actually works or not if you put it straight through a building, but it's not obstructed right now. The nice thing is that you can actually see these splitters coming out on the other side. So I'm not entirely sure if that's intentional or not, and I'm not sure if that's like accepted in the Satisfactory community or not. So let me know in the comments what you think. But for now, I can live with that, and we can always take out these walls if we want. The real reason we built them is because we want this roof. Now, what are we going to do on this roof? Well, several things actually. First of all, we are going to have to build a couple of constructors. And specifically, we are going to be building constructors that make screws. And let me see, let's align these, and let's make sure we have 2 of these. And then 2 more over here. Let's make sure we have them somewhere in the middle-ish. And then we're skipping 1 more. And then we should have 2 more over here. Why is this not working? Let me see. So let's build 1 more. It's maybe my building over here is interfering with it. Maybe I don't know. Let's build it manually then. Let's see. So 1 over here, something like that should work just fine. And then 1 next to it like that. Okay, so that's those 2. Now I'm gonna have to build another lookout tower because I can't stand doing this from the ground, honestly. There's probably a mod or something that makes me fly, I assume. I'm not entirely sure if I want to start using mods like that, but we can if we want to at some point. Now, what else do we need? We are actually going to need a couple of things. We are going to need 2 of these constructors over here, and we're going to have to flip that around once again. Let's make sure it's nicely aligned with the other one. There we go. Oh, that one is actually a little bit out of sync. Out of sync, is that the word I was looking for? Probably not. Where's the other one? So these... did I do this correctly? No. Actually, these are not in the correct spot. So let me think. Where are we supposed to build these? These are actually correct. So these are not correct. Okay, so now everything is actually aligned. These 2, or these sets of 2 constructors are going to be making screws, and we have 6 of them in total over here. And then these 3 are going to be making iron plates. And there's only 3 because we actually don't need that many iron plates. Now we can bring in the iron ingots from down here, so those will go up. We have the iron rods in beneath these screws, and that's exactly what they need. So we'll bring those up as well and split those off. And then we are pretty much ready to build our 3rd floor and final floor as well. But first, I have some work to do because once again, we are going to have to put in a lot of belts. Now, before you start screaming at me in the comments, I realized that 2 of these constructors are actually going to be making more screws than we can actually put on a single Mark I belt. Now, we are going to be overproducing the reinforced plates that we actually need in order to make Mark II belts. So initially, I'm just going to be building this with Mark I belts, and then I'm going to upgrade the belts as soon as we get this facility up and running. So I will show you that in the end, at least I hope I will remember to, but just in case that I forget, make sure that the belts that are attached to the screw constructors, the outgoing belts that is, are actually Mark II belts until they are split off from each other and you are actually able to use Mark I belts once again. Alright, so let's get going with some belts. Well, that took me a little bit more than a minute, but all the belts are in place, all the power is in place, so as you can see, we are actually producing stuff already on the 2nd floor. So I am grabbing the iron rods from down here. They're being transported exactly on the same spot up here, so this is a pretty neatly organized factory, I think. We are now producing screws, which currently are not going anywhere just yet, but let me jump down here to make sure we can see what's going on below. Similarly, we are bringing down half of the iron rods up here and we're turning them to plates, and then we're combining all of those plates into a single belt all the way in the back, because 3 of these are producing exactly 1 full Mark I belt of plates, and those are going to go upstairs to the 3rd floor. Now that again means I actually need to build a 3rd floor, but I'm getting pretty good at this, so let's get to it. So we're almost done. I have built the 3rd floor, and now it's time to build the new building that we unlocked, which is the assembler, which allows us to make 2 items into 1 new item. Now, we're going to need only 5 of these for now. And let's see. Where are we going to put the first one? I guess somewhere like this here in the middle. And that's 1. Then we're going to leave a little bit of room. And then we'll have the 2nd one over here. And once again, we're going to leave a little room. And then we have the 3rd one over here. Now we're actually also going to need 2 of these on the other side to make the reinforced plates. Let me think for a moment how we are actually going to place those. I think we're going to do that like this. And that will be, let's see. Are we going to place this like this? No, we're going to flip them around and do it like so, I believe. Yeah, I think this makes the most sense, and you will see why in a moment. So 1, and then we'll have another one. Maybe something like that. Actually, let me think. We do need to reorganize this slightly, I believe, just to make sure we can have the belts be as neat as we can get them. Something like this, and then we can actually take out these and slightly move them up. Something like this and this perhaps. Okay. So now what are we going to make here? We are going to make the frames. Let me see, can I see anywhere where, no, actually let's just zoom down. There we go. Okay, so what are we going to make in these things? We have this one that is going to make the modular frames. Now this is a really low production rate, only 2 per minute. We're not going to need too many of those to begin with, but we will definitely want to scale this up later on. But for now, we'll have to do with 2 per minute. So yeah, let's have this one make the modular frames. Then we're going to make this one make the smart plating. Now this is the one that we actually need in order to get to the complete phase 1 achievement over there. Once again, a very low rate, but it'll do for now. And what else? Well, assuming I can get over this one. Yeah, there we go. We are going to make rotors over here. Now these are actually being produced at a slightly higher rate. 4 per minute, still not a lot, but still. It's twice as much as the other ones. And then we are going to somehow get to this other side. Can I jump over this? Yes, I can. And then across the wall. Oh, I am so balancing. I am a ballerina almost. Okay. We are going to make reinforced plates over here. And as you can see, that summarizes all the 4 recipes that we can actually make in this. What was it called again? The assembler. There we go. Okay, this does mean that we're going to have to fiddle around a little bit with belts in order to actually get everything to go where it needs to go. So once again, I'm just going to go do all that fiddling around and then skip right to the end product. Okay, and there we go. We have all the assemblers up and running. As you can see, everything has a green light. At least I hope it does. Yep, it does. That means everything is functioning at full capacity. I did make sure I upgraded the screw belts because, as we noted before, they have more than 60 on a belt, and that's not what a Mark 1 belt can handle by itself. Now, the whole thing with splitters and mergers over here is pretty complicated, honestly. We are transporting the screws up and we're splitting them, half of them off into this facility. Then the surplus is going through to the second facility that's going to be merged with the second belt of screws that is coming from downstairs. Then that's going into the splitter once again to go into the second smart reinforced panel production. Then the remainder of that is actually going around, being combined with the third screw belt that is coming down from below, and then that's being combined into one single belt, and that's feeding into the rotors, and then those rotors are in turn being split over here. Some of them are going down to storage, and then this is going to go into the smart panel facility. The smart panels are currently not going anywhere yet because I still have to finish the storage, but we also have the rods coming from down below that go into the smart panels as well. And of course we have these reinforced plates. Half of them are going into the smart panels, the other half are going into the metal frames. And then of course we also need some rods for that. So the rods themselves were quite annoying because we had a little bit of rods left over in several places of the belt. So I had to combine all of those downstairs and then bring them up in one belt over there. So even though it's kind of fun to see all the different levels of your facility working at the same time, and it was a lot of fun to design and build also, even though it took me probably way longer than it should have. I'm not entirely convinced this is actually the optimal way to build your facility. It's definitely a way you can go, and you can just put a wall around it and call it a day. But I think there's a more efficient way that we will try over the next few episodes. But for now, let's enjoy what we've built today. And of course, in order to do that, we are going to have to jump down and really take a good step back and take a look at it. And there we go. You can see some of these smart panels coming in. The reinforced panels are coming in. We have some of the frames coming in over here, and we also have rotors coming here, so everything is working like intended. We have all the storage facilities down here, so we can easily grab whatever we are producing that we need. It looks pretty awesome if you ask me. It's quite fun to actually build vertical, unlike the sprawling Dyson sphere factories, but I'm not entirely sure, like I mentioned before, if this is the optimal way to go, but for now, mission complete, I would say. Now, I did actually have to expand our little energy factory over here. It's now 9 bioburners working almost at full capacity, so you can imagine that is draining our wood and leaf resources pretty quickly. And I've already done quite a few runs around the map to collect some of that stuff, but I do hope we get some alternative source of fuel in the near future, because that's gonna get old really quick and I'm running out of wood in the nearby area. So, of course, I can cut down all these trees, but honestly, that does not give you all that much wood. So, yeah, we definitely are going to have to power up our facility in a different manner. However, for now, I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, make sure you like and subscribe, and I will catch you in the next one.